Hi, I'm Liana, and this is A Serendipitous Life. So today I'm going to be making tomato soup. Tomato soup is something that everybody in my family really enjoys, even my pickiest little eater, Elliot. So I normally make it from canned tomatoes, and we eat it immediately. But I found a recipe in the Ball Canning book for a roasted tomato soup made fresh out of fresh tomatoes. And you roast the tomatoes and then you can can it so that you can eat it all year long. So I'm just doing a very small batch to start with. So I'm going to start off by roasting my tomatoes. I have the oven set to 350 degrees. I'm going to drizzle these tomatoes with a little bit of olive oil. And this is going to just kind of help soften the tomatoes. And when they are done roasting, I'm going to be able to just peel the skins right off of the tomatoes. I'm going to salt it because you can't have tomatoes without salt. And I'm also going to roast some garlic on this, which I haven't gotten out yet, but I have a head of garlic over here. So we're going to also put some garlic in here. And for the garlic, I'm just going to simply take a small, hang on baby, I'll get you a drink in a second. I'm going to take a small head of garlic that I have left over, and I'm going to cut the top off so that I can let this garlic roast, and I'm going to also drizzle it with some olive oil so that it can soften and we can get these garlic heads straight out of their paper. So we got, the recipe calls for about 4 cloves, so I've got that here. I'm just going to kind of tuck that in, and we'll go ahead and drizzle this with a little bit of oil as well. I'm going to put this into a 350 degree oven for about an hour. I'm going to be watching it because it does say an hour, but I think it may not be quite that long. It says 45 minutes. Okay, so we'll do it for 45 minutes. So while my tomatoes are roasting, I'm also going to be cooking dinner. So I'm experimenting with a recipe that I found. I had this at a restaurant on my birthday back in July, and it was a restaurant that served primarily pork, so I figured I would make some pork along with this. And it's roasted beets, which I should have put some gloves on, but yeah, you live, you learn. It's roasted beets with red cabbage. I'm also going to put some onions on it and roast it in the oven. And when it's just about ready, I'm going to put some kielbasa sausage on it so that the boys can eat that because they're not really much of pork chop fans. And then I'm gonna make pork chops for Allison and I to eat with dinner. I'm also gonna put some onions with it while it's roasting as well. So I will come back and let you know how it goes. So basically here I have done a nice layer of olive oil. I thought I recorded this, but I did not. I've got a hefty bunch of pepper, a hefty bunch of salt. This is Himalayan pink salt. I got a hefty little bit of rubbed sage and some parsley. And we just massage that all in. I'm going to let this bake in the oven and braise for probably about 45 minutes to an hour. When it is close to being done, I'm going to add in the pork chops and the kielbasa sausage. So you see this beet and red cabbage, I'll call it a hash, is looking beautiful, and I just tasted it and it tastes phenomenal. So I'm going to go ahead and put the meat on it, and we're going to let this go just a little bit longer until the meat is done. And you'll see the tomatoes are also done. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to let that cool. And when it's cool, I'm going to get the seeds out. I'm going to get the skins off of them, get this garlic out of here, and we'll start on our soup. It is going to be a small batch, and we'll probably will can this tomorrow because there's no way I'm going to be able to do all of this tonight. Here it is with the pork chops and the sausage and ready to go in the oven. The finished product of the pork chops with the hash that I created. You can see those beets look delicious. And they are delicious. I'll probably drizzle it with a little bit of balsamic glaze. Now I'm going to make some sauerkraut. The basics of sauerkraut is it's a lacto-fermented vegetable. So I'm going to start off, I've got some shredded cabbage here, and I'm going to stick it down inside here, and I'm going to layer it with some pink Himalayan salt. Generally, for a head of cabbage, you want to use about 4 teaspoons of salt. So we'll start off with 1 teaspoon. Stuff it on in there. Now I'm going to take my little sauerkraut tool here, put another spoon of salt on it. The salt is going to draw the water out of it so that we can get it packed in here and make it its own juice in order to ferment this cabbage. Another spoon of salt. And pack it down in there. Plenty of salt in there, but it's not making much juice, so I'm hoping that as it sits it'll start to create some juice. If not, I'll have to put some brine in here. It's been many years since I've made sauerkraut, and I made it in a much larger batch the last time, but I think that we'll just let this kind of sit for a little bit, and I'll come in here and keep squeezing it like this to hopefully get that juice to start coming out. Because you don't want it to be dry, that's for sure. Secret to getting the juice coming out. Instead of using the wooden pickle press, I'm using a metal one to kind of chop the cabbage as I go, and you'll see it's creating a great brine, which is what you want to see. And then after chopping it like that, I come back with the wooden one, and you'll see tons and tons of juice coming out. This is what we want to see, is this right here. That is fantastic. You want it completely covered, just like that. See all that nice juice on there? I am going to put just a little extra water in there because I want to make sure it's completely submerged. And I want to get all the little pieces of cabbage off of the edges here, because when you leave cabbage in there like that, that's how you get mold and spoilage. So I'm just going through and getting all that little pieces of cabbage that are on the walls pushed down into the brine. I have a special cabinet that I keep my fermented things in, and I like to use that because it's nice and dark and you don't have to worry about any light coming in and disturbing it. So I've got this little weight that's going to help hold everything down. Funny though, I bought these weights because they're made to pick it out, but then we got our little pickle pipe. This is gonna let air out so that as it ferments, the air can come through. And then I'm gonna seal it up with a lid. And it says 4 days to 4 weeks. I want this to be really good sauerkraut, so it's gonna be on here for a little bit. And it's all set and ready to go. So this is gonna go in my fermenting cabinet now. And I'm going to eat my dinner. It's been a couple of days since I started the tomato soup. I had to work and I was just tired. So it's my day off. I'm gonna finish the tomato soup. The recipe calls for basil. I didn't have enough basil for the recipe, so I got some basil, a little bit of rosemary, and a little bit of sage, because they're all in that same Italian family, and I know that they'll be good in the tomato soup, but it's mostly basil. Over here, I've got a small onion sauteing that I'm going to add to the pot. And then right here, I got all the tomatoes with the garlic, the juice that came off the tomatoes. And I got most of the seeds and all of the skins off. We're gonna just cook this down And I will blend it all together, give it a taste, let it cook down. I've got a few jars in the dishwasher so that we can use those clean and hot to pressure can the tomato soup. This is fresh rosemary, so it's not easy to cut up. When it's dried, you can kind of just crumble it, and it crumbles great. It's just a very woody herb, but I love rosemary. It's one of my favorites. A little trick for basil is you want to stack them all together, and it's a lot easier to cut them that way. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. I was kind of stacking them as I was picking them, but some of them, you know, didn't work out. So you just kind of stack them all together so it's like a little boat of basil. And depending on how small you want it, you can just kind of chop it this way. I want it pretty fine. Some people roll it up, that works too. Got it nice and chopped. So I got my nice little herbs here ready to go into the pot with the garlic and the tomatoes. You don't want these onions to get too brown, but I like a little caramelization because that really brings the taste out in the onion. And they'll still cook down inside the soup as well. I'm going to go ahead and just add this to my pot. So now we're going to give this a nice little stir. I would like more of the actual spoon. It looks beautiful. Not going to make very much soup, and that's okay. This is just a test batch. I'm going to can it just so I see how it comes together, and then we're probably going to eat it in the next day or two so that I can see how it tastes. And to be honest with you, my tomatoes did awful this year, so I didn't really get any tomatoes, but I'm just looking for something different so that next year I can hopefully have a good tomato harvest and hopefully be able to have some good soup to put away because we love it. So we're just going to let this go for a little bit, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready to blend it together. Use on the soup. I'm not crazy about this thing. It's a KitchenAid. I don't feel like it really does a good job, but I don't feel like pulling out the big blender. And then we got the soup here. It's cooked down a lot. I did add some white wine, and I added some chicken broth to the mixture. See how it wants to come off every time? I'm not crazy about that. Smells divine. trouble. Halloween. That's nice. Nice and smooth. Smells so good. So, so good. So, I'm going to get a little spoon and we're going to taste it. Oh, this is good. Very good. Put a little bit of sour cream in it, or a little bit of heavy cream, a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top. That's the good stuff. All right, so we're gonna put this in the jars with 1 inch of headspace. If you look on one of these debubbling things, I know it's a very technical word, 1 inch is the full thing. This is a whole inch. So you put it in like that, and then you know it's 1 inch. I think I'm gonna ladle this because I don't want to waste any or spill it. So it looks like a half a batch made about 2.5 jars. So I'm guessing a full batch would have been about 5 jars, which that's not too bad. And we got 1 inch, 1 inch, and then of course the half. We're gonna go ahead and process it just to see how it comes out, because when you pressure can, it's gonna make more liquid, or it's gonna make it thicker. I'm just cleaning off my lids. And make sure you always do it finger tight. If you do it too tight, you're gonna bust your lid. So always finger tight. Ask brother to open your door. So we got 2.5 beautiful jars of tomato soup. got about 2 inches of simmering water here. I'm gonna put my cans inside of the pressure canner. And we're gonna lock her up. So the key is to line up the arrow. This is what happens when you haven't canned in your pressure canner for a long time. Alexa, set timer for 50 minutes. So once your thing is going pretty good, you're gonna let this go for 50 minutes. All right, here we go. Let's see how our sauce is. Say sauce, I mean soup. Ooh, look at that pretty tomato soup. This one's still bubbling in there. Of course, you see, since it wasn't full all the way, it kind of got a little scorched. We're gonna eat that one right away. Delicious. So, we'll see how it holds up. Thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe, and God bless our mess. Goodbye.